Now, let's first of all look very quickly back at, what are your general thoughts about how the oil sector has performed? Have we overachieved or underperformed in your assessment?
Well, I think from an international level, you would say that we've underperformed. From an indigenous level, I say that we have performed amicably well.
Mm. But, what indices are you looking at, especially for the local side?
Well, from the local side, a couple of years ago, you had no local players playing in this. 15 years ago, we were mere paper pushers. Today, you have active players, storage, downstream owners, upstream owners, service companies. So there's a vibrant indigenous part that is doing very, very well. A couple of years ago, all you had were IOCs doing the drilling, doing the production and exploration. Today you have indigenous players that are doing it. So I think all in all, you would find that the local indigenous part is coming alive, and I think that that is doing well.
Okay, and then, for me, things that stand out for me are the likes of NNPC, the state-owned oil company. And you look at what has happened across the world in the Middle East, Asia, South America. These are some of the largest companies in the world now, and they used to be state-owned companies. But the NNPC, for instance, we have struggled to privatize that company. Looking ahead now, how do you see the next 50 years?
Okay, NNPC is a potentially large company, potentially good company, but you would always find problems with potential. Potential holds and stays, and you have to do something with it. I think the only way that you can see an NPC becoming the superpower that it ought to be is that there has to be an influx of a PPP mentality. Private sector, they need to drive it. They need to drive the policies, they need to drive the way an NPC runs and operates, and they have to hold it accountable. Absolutely accountable.
And then, of course, let's look at the impediments to growth. Obviously, there's so much potential in the oil sector. What are your thoughts on things like legislation, local participation? What are your views on how we can move ahead with these things?
Absolutely, you need that. There's no problem. So when you have the PIB, you have the Nigerian content law and things like that, legislation that is coming into play to drive the oil industry in Nigeria, absolutely good. The main problem is implementation. The main problem is the execution of the legislation that comes in. Now, there has to be a discussion between those who are making legislation and those of us who are living the day-to-day in it, because we know where the problems are. So we have to come together, talk about it, open it up and see, make the legislation work for us.
I think some people would say the oil is a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it's provided enormous wealth to the government, but on the other hand, the focus on oil has led to a decline in other sectors. Looking ahead over the next 50 years, how critical would you say the oil sector is to Nigeria's economic fortunes?
Okay. Oil would always remain a critical factor, and it should. There's no problem with that. You have it. However, it should come down. I see a future where oil will play about a 50% role in what Nigeria has, because we have abundant resources in minerals, in agriculture, in services, in IT, in people, human resources. But we have to move away from oil. And so the government, as we speak, I'm on the National Committee for Job Creation. And when we look at the things there, all we see are that there are vast areas that nobody has looked at, no one has touched, and there are massive areas, and we just have to move away. So oil has to come down to at least 50% for us to get to where we need to go, and it's available.